Today, we're talking about how to manage end of year stress and anxiety and sort your life out ready for 2024. And I'm so excited for this episode because I love talking to other coaches of inspirational stories of personal transformation that led them to helping so many other people as a result. And today's guest is definitely one of those people. And after significant traumas and years of depression and anxiety and hitting the proverbial rock bottom, as luck would have it, she was introduced to Australia's brain untrainer. And she now credits to this meeting to have helped save her life. And with her coach's help, Rebekah understood how her brain worked and what she could do to retrain her mind and change her life. Now she helps others eliminate anxiety and smash the beliefs that hold them back from living their best life. And she's also a big contributor to the community and helping those in less fortunate positions as well. So I'm very excited to welcome to the coaching circle, Rebekah King.
Thanks, Tony. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really
Thank you.
yeah, no, well, it's all the things. And certainly, we've been connected for a little while now. And I've really admired the work that you do and the charity things that you do and all kinds of stuff. So I'm really excited to speak with you today. And but where I want to start, because I know this is really an important part of the journey and what really inspires other people as well, is what is it that led you to get into coaching and start your business specifically? Because I know, in the intro, I've said that you had your own sort of things and met someone who helped you. But really, what made you want to go into business, and why is that important to you?
Yeah, okay. Well, it might sound really strange, but it all started with a potato chip.
A potato chip,
Yeah, let
a
me
particular brand? Was it like a Pringles
No,
or no?
no, it was potato chips in general. See, because as you said in the introduction, I lived with depression and anxiety for a long, long time, more than 20 years. And
Wow.
everything, life was good. I'd traveled, I'd lived overseas, interstate, I had the house, the car, the job, all of that kind of stuff. But, something was missing. And
Mm,
I'd encountered a lot of trauma, like a lot of us have throughout my life. I don't need to list those things, but, lots of different things had happened. And it got so bad that I couldn't even get out of bed some days. So it was really affecting my life.
wow.
And luckily, it was actually my mum who introduced me to Rick, the brain untrainer that you mentioned in the intro. And he helped me untrain my brain and learn how it all works, and then basically helped me build it up again and retrain my brain.
Mm,
And
mm.
what happened then is, again, mum, who, for those of you who don't know, is also my business partner because she's also a practitioner. But she said to me, Beck, I think you'd really enjoy studying NLP. I had a fascination for the brain. I really enjoyed learning how my brain works. And she said, it'd actually be good for the work that you do anyway. I wasn't a coach at that particular time because I worked with people, I built
Yeah.
relationships. And of course, it teaches you all about how to communicate with people. And so I kind of went into it, reluctantly, but I started the NLP prac course. And I think it was about week 5, Tony, we did the technique, which you'll be very familiar with, like to dislike.
Yes.
And Rick said, who wants to volunteer? Who's got something that's really a big problem, something that they eat or drink that's a big problem? And my hand shot up and I was like, yes, potato chips. Because I was obsessed with potato chips, and I mean obsession.
Wow.
I could have eaten a full dinner. I would have gone to bed. I could be lying in bed 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night. And if I had potato chips in my house, which I often did, I would have to go and eat them, the whole bag, stuffing them in my face. It was pretty ugly.
Wow. Yeah.
And it had become a problem. Clearly there was some other stuff underneath that. And when I volunteered for this, the technique took about half an hour. And after that, the thought of potato chips absolutely repulsed me. I could
Yes.
not even walk down the supermarket aisle without, and I'm actually feeling it now. I'm feeling this gagging feeling.
Yeah.
And I gave up potato chips. And it was that moment that I went, wow, this is powerful stuff. And
Yes.
I need to help other people make these changes in their life.
Which is
And
not just like helping people stop eating potato chips, mind you.
no, that's just one
There's a
example.
whole lot, but it is such a powerful technique, and I love that that was the trigger for you,
Yep,
but because that, as you know, like I teach this stuff, and I was just teaching last week actually, and I had people in the class. Someone no longer drinks solo, someone no longer eats hot chips, someone no
yep,
longer, what was all these things, people just stopped eating
yep,
and like completely, and they're just going, I just don't want to eat it anymore, like it's
yep.
just not even a thing. And it's such a good convincer for people to understand the power of the mind, how you can completely change how you feel about something that previously you would just eat, like couldn't help yourself. And it's
Mhm.
like that. And like you said, it took what tops a half an hour, but like
Yep,
you can do it in 10 minutes even. Like
yeah,
it's that fast, right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Such a great convincer.
exactly. Yeah. So, that was that moment for me. And within 6 months, I refinanced my house, I quit my job, and I went all in as a coach. Mum and I started our business together, Moonbeam Monday, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah, wow, that's really powerful, Beck. And I think even when you said that, can I just ask you on this? This is a little bit off topic, but no, you just said to me, I refinanced my house.
Yeah.
Can I just ask quickly what that was? Because I did a lot of refinancing when I first left my job and started a business as well. Was that to kind of fund your new direction?
Yeah, because I knew that I didn't want to, do this part-time or in the evenings. I wanted to go all in. And quite frankly, I'd got to the point in my previous career and at my previous job where I was ready to go. I was ready to move on.
Yeah,
And so I didn't want to be still working at a job and coaching on the side of things. So yeah, I remortgaged my house to withdraw equity
yeah.
to live off for the next however long it was going to last.
Yes. Do you know what? Like there's something very important about this. And certainly this isn't financial advice to anyone. Neither of us are financial
No.
advisors or anything else. Just a bit of a caveat there. But like
Yeah.
this is the thing, right? When something is really important to you, you find the money to do it. Like I even sold my property when I was going all in on my business and becoming a trainer and all that kind of stuff. Like I literally I sold my place that I had. It was my security. I sold it. I did end up in a place where I was like, oh my God, like I've spent all my money, where am I going to go? But things turned around quite quickly after that. But the whole point of this is that when you're convinced there's something else for you and that there's a better way and there's a different thing that you want to do and you want to change your life, you will find any way to make that happen.
Yep, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And I'd even had that conversation with my coach earlier on, and we were looking at options, because I was saying saying to him, and I was saying to myself, I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to leave my job and, coach full time. And he's like, well, really? Well, let's have a look at that. Which of course, as you know, these are the questions that we ask people. But he's like, let's chunk this down and get specific. Do you have any equity in your home? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I've got quite a bit. And he's like, well, there you go. There's the
Yeah.
money.
So
you
what
know,
else are you going to do with that money, right? Like
exactly. It's just sitting there.
just have it build up until when you become, 70, you're going to live a life. Well, what about the life you're going to live between now and then?
Exactly. And, you can leverage that to make an even better life. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. That's really powerful. So now you changed, you stopped eating chips.
Yeah, that
You
was a
got
good
rid of
one.
all the anxiety and stress. And this is another important thing that you said, Beck, because you said it was 20 years that you
More than
had struggled with this stress and anxiety and depression. Sorry, it was
depression.
anxiety and depression. Yeah.
Yeah.
20 years,
Mm.
right? Like, and I think and there's so many people that have this, because until you know there's a different way, you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. And, most people are just told by their doctors just to take medications and things like that. And not that I'm against that as a, get yourself in a better state, but it's not a long-term solution, right? But
Yeah.
people just don't know that there's another way. So, for people that have suffered for a long time, because I know I've worked with people that have seen psychologists and different things for years, and they're like, yeah, I felt a little bit better at the time, but nothing really ever changed. I never moved past it. And then, they come along and experience NLP or timeline therapy or hypnosis, and then bang, the problem's gone. And they're like, oh my God, why didn't I find this sooner?
Yeah.
But like, what would you say for someone who's really been in that space for like long term, like they've been seeing, doctors or psychologists or whatever, and it's just an ongoing kind of scenario?
Yeah, Tony, you basically just described my life. All
Mm,
of that. I did. I spent years. I went to counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists. I even went to a witch doctor in Bali.
wow.
I saw everyone. I tried herbs. I was on medication. And you're exactly right. A lot of those things actually made it worse.
Mm,
I felt a little bit better from certain things, but nothing lasted. And that's the point, isn't it? Nothing lasts.
mm,
And so I got to this point, and again, this is this conditioning that we talk about, but I got to that point where I truly believed that I was different,
yeah.
that I was broken, and that
Mm,
I was unfixable.
mm,
And I had actually been told as much by some medical professionals. And
mm,
so, I sort of got to that point where I thought, well, if the professionals can't, fix me in inverted commas, then what hope have I got? And so I guess it was luck to a certain degree, although I believe in, manifestation and the universe and things
yes.
happening at the right time. But I guess it was just luck that I was introduced to Rick. And to be perfectly honest, I was the most cynical person. I was the most skeptical person. I went into it not fully believing that it would work.
Mm,
He was touted as somebody who could cure depression. And I'm like, yeah, can't cure it.
yeah.
Um,
That's not even legal to say. It can't be,
exactly,
it can't be
exactly.
true. Yeah.
It can't be true, surely not. But I went into it with an open mind. And I guess I had reached that point where uh, I didn't, there was nothing else to do. It was either that or, quite frankly, I didn't want to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people get to that point.
Yeah.
The great thing is, though, that you don't have to get to that point.
Mm,
You've got to be open, and you've got to hear things like this. You've got to hear from other people who have been through this and realize that there is another solution. And
mm.
what's the harm in trying it?
Oh, absolutely. And Rebecca, I think that I'm so glad that you're very open and vulnerable about that, because I think a lot of people do get to that point where they start thinking to themselves, I don't want to live, like, if this is my life. And I think I want to make a point of this, because people often feel so much shame about that, and that they can't tell other people that, because there's such a big stigmatism about
Yeah,
people committing suicide and things like that. And of course, if you're at that point, please call Lifeline or Beyond Blue or something like that immediately. And reach out to someone who can help you beyond that. But it's we need to know that it's normal. People need to know that it's normal. Like, you are not broken, you are not weird, you're not strange. If you've thought about, I don't want to live, right?
mm,
That happens a lot. I think that's really important for people to know. Like, if you've had those
yeah,
thoughts, you're not unusual, you're not broken, you're not a terrible person.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So, but that's the thing, right? You were at those depths and you came out. How quick do you think it took you, or how much time? I don't want to preempt how quick or not it was, but how much time do you think it was for you to really change your life around from being in those depths to being like, yep, no, I've got a new direction. I feel like I'm in control and happy
yeah.
with where I am and where I'm going.
That's a really interesting question, Tony. Some things I felt immediate effects, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like this, after one session, I was like, oh, wow, woohoo, everything's brilliant. It was just, within days and weeks, it was like, oh, okay, that's different. Or, I'm in the same situation as I was a week or a couple of months ago, but I feel differently. And
Yeah.
then, down the track, I'd noticed something else different. And, it was gradual. And it was probably, it's one of those things for me. And as you said, it's different for everyone. But for
Yeah.
me, I got a little ways down the track, let's just say a year, for example, and I was able to look back and go, things are completely different. I didn't really notice it as it was happening, but now I can see that I'm a very different person. And then, another 6 months down the track, I was like, even more different. Like life is even better, and I'm able to do different things, and I'm speaking differently, and I'm thinking differently, and and I'm changing my life. I'm leaving my job, and people around me going, oh my God, are you stressed about that? Like, are you scared? And I'm like, no. Like,
Yeah.
this is the best thing, it's the most natural thing for me to do. So as you know, it's impossible to put a timeline on something
Yeah,
like this.
but it's not like it's years, right? If someone's
No,
had something for 20 years, it's not like it's going to take you another 20 years to do it.
no.
It could be like it might be a few weeks, a few months, whatever,
Yeah,
and things just continue to evolve and improve over time, right?
exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I think that's a really good point to make. It's not going to take the time that it took to get here
yeah,
to undo it. It's like, the analogy, you fall in the river and you get caught up in the river, and you straight away, like that, you develop a fear of drowning, for example.
yeah.
So it happens in a split second.
Quickly, yes.
But then we hold on to that, and it often takes years for us to do anything about that. But if you developed that fear in that split second,
Yes.
why can't you get rid of it in a split second? And the
Oh,
answer is you can.
you can, absolutely. This was one of the other things I did a lot of phobia release in my last training, because it's one of the things that, we teach in NLP.
Yeah.
And I help someone get rid of a phobia of anyone touching their belly button, anyone cleaning their belly button. What else? There was a phobia of oh, what were the other ones? Oh, like leaning into like glass, if you're on like a high bridge or
Yep.
something, and there's like a glass. Someone had a phobia of like anyone going near that. We
Yep.
shifted that.
Yep.
What else was there? I think there was one of snakes as
Yep.
well. And like it's fast. It's like a phobia, like an intense irrational fear can be gone in
Yep.
like 10 minutes, 15
Yep.
minutes. Yeah.
Yep. I've got rid of a fear of snakes, a fear of MRIs.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
and, I worked with someone recently, and we eliminated her fear of flying
Yeah.
within, we worked together over a couple of hours and gone.
Gone.
Like,
Yes.
it's so cool.
Yeah, and yeah, and this is the thing, right? This is why I know, like, even when I was, doing this, the person saying, I've had so much like CBT on this, I've
Yeah.
paid so many therapists, and like it's never really changed. And then it's like, okay, let's change it. But that's the thing, like you were saying, it's that in an instant, your mind creates an association to a certain internal representation and a feeling, and then they're hooked together.
Yeah.
But how long it's there is not to do with how bad it is. It's like how intense that connection was. You
Yeah.
just disconnect it and it's done. Yeah.
Right.
I know that is so good. So anyway, we've gone a little bit off track, which is quite normal for the conversations that I have on this show, Beck,
Yeah.
because because
Yeah.
I believe that the right conversation just unravels in the right way. And I think where it's leading us into now is the thing that we want to talk about is that this time of year there's a lot of people that are getting stressed and overwhelmed, or maybe even feeling anxious, or could even be feeling into those, because there's levels of depression, as that depression is like a state that people can get into, and like end of year and Christmas and all that can put a lot of pressures on. So I would love to know, Beck, like, what are your hot tips for helping people manage everything that's going on in this end of the year, and really, sorting your life out, really, because that's what it
Yeah.
comes down to, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And that's an important distinction to make, I think. I mean, as we have this conversation right now, we're leading into Christmas. It's not far away. So
Mm,
we can give some tips to help people, over the next week or two. But really what it does come down to is, do you want to feel like this again next year? Because if we're honest with ourselves and we stand here and we go, I'm feeling really stressed and anxious about Christmas this year. Is this the first time you've ever
mm,
felt stressed and anxious about Christmas?
mm.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and make an assumption and say, no, this is something that happens every year. It builds up, we've got so much to do. And so really, when you think about it, that's a pattern that we've built that we see every year. And so really it
Yeah.
does come down to how, as you put it, sorting your life out.
Do you
So
know the best T-shirt I saw? Sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah.
the best T-shirt I saw the other day said, "This is my second rodeo."
Well, I love
You
that.
know,
I
like,
always use that saying. So I love that.
but when you say, "Is this the first time that's happened?" It's
Yeah.
like, no, this is.
No,
No, wouldn't even be your second rodeo.
like,
It'd be
like my 10th
this
rodeo.
happens every year. Yeah.
Exactly. And so the important part, apart from the tips, which we'll give in a minute, but is to think about, do you want this to happen again next year and every year after that? And if the
Mm,
answer is no, which I expect that most people would say, it's time to start having a look at what the reasons are. What is that root cause? Because,
or
we
even
can.
how are you doing that?
Yeah, exactly. What's the
Yeah.
strategy of being stressed and anxious? And we do get very, overwhelmed because we generalize about things.
Mm,
I've got so many things to do before Christmas. Well,
mm,
really? What are the things? Oh, I've got to get the whole lunch ready, and I've got to buy all the presents. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you having for lunch? Is anybody else doing anything? Um,
mm.
how many is all of the presents? Oh, well, it's 4 presents. Well, 4 isn't a lot. So it's about getting specific. And so of course it's about getting back to basics and really working on, that inner reflection about, how am I doing this? What is the actual problem? Because this is probably just a symptom. And what's the work that I can do before next year so that I don't feel like this again?
Mm.
But in the meantime, in the next week or two, that's what I recommend to people, is just taking a step back. And I think this is what people find difficult, Tony, is it's like, but I just have to keep going at this pace, or I'm going to drop all the balls. Something's not going to get done.
Yeah.
But actually, what you'll find is that if you just stop, you take a step back, and you're even still for a moment, and you start looking at things a little more specifically as opposed to this global overwhelm, then
Mm.
you'll realize that there are certain things that you can do. And one of the questions that I love to ask people is, on that massive list of stuff that you've got to do before Christmas, what can come off the list? Because
Yeah.
we've got this, oh, well, I've got to make sure that I clean out the garage, and I've got to weed the garden out the front so everybody thinks that the house looks good, and all of these things. It's like, really, does it matter if there's a few weeds in the garden?
Mm.
Really matter if you've cleaned out the shed by Christmas? What can come off your list so that you can actually give yourself some of this relief?
Yes, I like that word, relief. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that I did this, well, I've probably had it for the last few years actually, is we have a gardener and a cleaner for
Mhm.
relief because
Yeah,
it was causing too much tension in our house.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
And there are things that we can get help with. Who can you ask for support?
yeah.
Uh, so it's learning how to prioritize as well. And one of the simplest things that you can do, and everything that I do offer, like all of the tips that I do offer, they are super simple, Tony. And people think, oh,
Mm,
it's simple, so it can't work. But that's actually the error that I made when I was in that, depression and anxious state, is that I thought these things were too simple and that they wouldn't work. But
yes.
they are the things that work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
absolutely. It just comes back to that. How are you doing it? And like you said,
Mm.
overwhelm is just like having too much information usually at in your head. So writing a list and then prioritizing that,
Yeah.
it's like, well, how could it be that simple? Well, because it is.
Because it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing which I mentioned before, we're running around and, we create that feeling of busy, the B word. I don't like the B word. I don't use it. But
Mm,
we create that buzzy, like, ooh, kind of feeling. And all it takes is to just stop for a moment and be still. And, I even had a moment of this yesterday. I was up early, had an early meeting, and then I had a planning day all day, and then I had to go for a personal appointment. And I had to race home afterward to do some more training, but I had 5 minutes. And I was down at Port Adelaide. It was a beautiful day. And before I got in my car after the appointment, I just took 5 minutes to walk down to the water.
mm,
It's one of my favorite places. I looked at the water. I find the water very calming. And then I slowly walked back to my car.
yes.
It would have taken no more than 5 minutes. And I felt great. I've been running around all day. My head was buzzing with ideas. But in those 5 minutes, I was back to calm and I was ready to jump into the next thing. So, that's
Yeah.
something I want to make quite clear, is that you don't need to find an hour or even half an hour to be still or to slow down. 5 minutes,
Mm.
a couple of times a day will make a difference.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're right about like the busy word, and people,
Mm.
it's like, oh, I'm busy, I'm busy. And I often think about people that are like, they're driving, right? They're driving to work or wherever, going, oh my God, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. And it's like, no, you're driving your car.
Yeah,
That's all
yeah,
you're doing right now. The busy is just all the stuff that you're just running in laps around in your own head.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Concentrate on the task at hand.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, great. So if I like that tip as well. It's just like finding 5 minutes, or even it's just like finding some joy, right? Like
Yeah.
I know one of the things that I've been doing, because I've been busy. I've I've had a very full schedule for the last
Yeah,
few weeks,
yeah,
and I was like going, okay, I'm coming into the end of year. Like I need to bring, and for me, it was like I need to bring some joy into my days, right?
yeah,
Like I love what I do, and
yeah,
sometimes when it's just back to back and back to back, I was just like, oh, I need to bring some joy. So
yeah,
so for me, it's been like having things that are sparkly. Like I've
yeah,
got my big earrings on, and I've got my sparkly nails done, and like
yeah,
I even wore
exactly.
sequins to like a networking meeting
Yeah, yeah,
because it
exactly.
brings joy, right? So it's like everything's not so serious, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, finding things that bring joy. And I know another thing that really causes stress and anxiety at this time of year, Tony, is the financial pressure.
Mm,
And that it's more than just finding the money for Christmas presents and Christmas lunch. I mean, I'm in the situation too where my mortgage is skyrocketing this month, and
mm,
cost of living is increasing and all of that. So I totally get it.
mm,
I think what some people still do, and this again comes back to prioritizing, is, we're feeling very generous at this time of year, of course, as well. And we might even be trying to make up for certain things with certain people from throughout the year.
mm.
But the thing is, you're only going to feel more overwhelmed and more stressed after Christmas if you overspend.
Mm.
And so, it's looking at some simple changes there as well. Do you need to spend this much this year?
Yeah, and what
Do
is
you
that?
need to buy one more
I
thing?
think that's good what you said though, Beck. Like, yeah, do you need to spend this much money? But what's the purpose of it? Like,
Yeah,
what is the actual purpose of it? Like you said, it might be that they're trying to make up for something. So it's like, what outcome do you think you're going to get from spending that money? I think that's a question, isn't it, to even consider?
that's one of my favorite questions in any situation, Tony. For what purpose?
Yeah.
It could be exactly what we're talking about. It could be, I was just talking to someone this morning and they were talking about perfectionism. I'm like, for what purpose do you
Mm,
need to be perfect?
mm,
And, the look was like, oh. Yeah, and of course the reason came to that person, and we sort of talked about that a bit, but I love that question. For what purpose? For what purpose am I running around feeling anxious
Yeah.
even?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, these are great tips, Beck. And so so what have we had? Like having a list, prioritizing,
Mhm.
finding some joy, um, you know, thinking about, you know, like what do you actually need to spend money on, or not creating that extra stress post Christmas. That's not necessary. Anything else that you would like to add to that?
Yeah, I know that another thing that does come up for people at this time of year is feeling lonely.
Mm,
This loneliness is a big thing. Not everybody has family.
mm,
Um, and even if they do have family, not everybody has family close by where they're living. I remember spending a couple of years living in London. I had friends over there, but I did not have any family.
mm.
And so I know that loneliness becomes a thing for a lot of people, and they think, oh, I'm going to be on my own on Christmas Day. Some people love that, and that's cool. But for those that don't want to, or they know that this is going to be a problem, they might actually start feeling a bit blue. It's about planning for that as well. You know, and a couple of tips around that, I guess, Tony, are put yourself somewhere on Christmas Day where you know there are going to be other people.
Yeah.
It might seem like a strange thing to do if you've never done it, but book yourself a table at a restaurant.
Mm.
So you might be eating alone, but you're going to be surrounded by other people. And I almost put a $5 bet out there and say, if you're eating alone in a restaurant on Christmas Day and there are other people there, you'll likely be asked to join somebody's table.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is so true, isn't it? It's like that. It's a kind of spirit of celebration and connection,
Yeah.
and those things. It's just like you have to put yourself in the situation to make that possible. And I know, I can really appreciate what you're saying about spending Christmas by yourself in London. My daughter moved to Hamilton Island this year.
Mm.
It's not quite as far away as London, so I am actually going up to spend Christmas with her,
Yeah.
which will be nice because it is that kind of thing. And do you know what's another good thing? Actually, I've got a good friend of mine who lives in Sydney
Mhm.
who's doesn't have any family around. On Christmas Day, I know last Christmas Day she did this, and I think the one before, she actually made up these little care packets
Yeah.
and went down and gave them out to like homeless, and gave them like $20 or whatever,
Yeah.
and just sat and chat with them. And she said like it was so rewarding to be in that kind of act of
Yeah.
service and giving. And I guess it's that thing. I guess, what do you think? It's like that thing of like you're not focusing on yourself.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and that's right. You're not focusing on that particular feeling at that particular time, because again, that's just a symptom of something, isn't it? And
Yeah.
you're right. Most of us feel really good when we do something for other people. And,
Yeah.
there are so many people who, like I said, don't have somebody at Christmas, or who are sleeping rough. And so there's plenty of organisations around who need volunteers or want volunteers. There's people in hospital who won't get any visitors.
Mm,
There's elderly people in aged care homes who may not get any visitors.
mm.
You might even just have people that you know in your network. They might not be your close friends, but in your network who are also spending Christmas alone. Get them together.
Yes.
You do need to be proactive about these things.
Yeah.
And so who else is on their own? What else can I do rather than sitting at home with a sad little Christmas TV dinner,
Yeah.
if people exist?
Watching
And
another rerun of Love Actually.
that's right. Like, nothing wrong with that.
Oh, no, Stan,
Um,
I played it the other day, and on the bottom of my
yeah,
screen, Stan said, "Watch again."
yeah. Like, maybe not yet. But
Yeah.
that's right. So what else? See, this is the thing. Nothing changes if nothing changes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
So true. So true. Oh, great. Great. Well, there's some really great tips. But was there anything else you were going to add to those?
look, they're the main things I would say. Like I said, we're moments away from Christmas this year, and these are the things that usually come up when I talk to people. But the main point there is, what do you want for next year?
Yes.
Start having a think about next year now, maybe, after Christmas. But what is it that you want to change? And this is the time to do it. You know,
Yeah.
we all usually have a little bit of downtime over Christmas and New Year. So, you know, I'm not exactly somebody for setting New Year's resolutions and starting from the 1st of January, because of course there's a lot of stuff behind that you've got to put some work in to make them actually happen. But start thinking about now, well, if I don't want to feel this way next year, what is it that I can do? Who can I
Mm.
ask for help?
Yeah. And
Mm.
that's where it ties in all of this, doesn't it? Around, that there's a way that you're doing, feeling stressed or anxious or anything else coming into this year. And
Yeah.
so there's a different way of doing, feeling like you're organized and you're, having fun, and, that you're really looking forward to connecting with people or having downtime or whatever else. And like I said, it's like takes a bit of pre-planning. And I guess this is the coming into the how to sort your life out stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, quite often we look for solutions outside, don't we? You know, where if your listeners are familiar with the Robert Dilts 6 neurological levels, you know, we look at our environment and
Mm,
we look at what we can change our environment, then our behavior, then our skills. But what most of us don't do is we don't do that inner work, either
mm.
because we don't know how or we don't know the difference it's going to make. But this is the opportunity to, you know, and I'm sure everybody listening here, because they know what you do, they're engaged, they're already in this space, is to start looking inward, because it's not the external solutions. You're not going to find the solutions externally. You're going to find them internally.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a thing. So like, when you just reference there the Dilts 6
Mm,
levels kind of thing. So when you look at environment, I think that's the thing. Like people go, oh, if I change my environment. So that could be, oh, you got to change your job, or you got to change your house. People go, oh, if I just buy another house, or if I just
yeah.
move, oh, that's going to solve all the problems. Yeah. Or, and then nothing. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
the same stuff in a different location. And then
And I
I
know
would,
you're familiar with this because I've listened to one of your sessions where you were talking about,
yeah,
you know, the relationship that you had, and then
yeah,
you thought that was the problem, so you left, and then you found yourself in the same situation, and then you went, it's my job, I'll leave my job. And I know what that's like, because I
yeah,
the same thing. And it wasn't until I looked inwardly,
yeah.
is that a word? It looked inside myself, that I realized that, and like you said, I'm the common factor here,
Common denominator. Yeah.
common denominator. So I need to change some things myself.
Yeah. And it's an ongoing journey, because I know even for coaches, I know there'll be some coaches listening to this, is that
Mm.
you can get into that, well, if I just learn the next thing, if I just learn the next thing, if I just learn the next thing, or if I just get the best marketing technique, if I
Yeah,
just, and it's like, it's none of that. It's like, you have to get yourself in the mindset for, being okay with yourself and creating the results and being aligned with that before any amazing technique's going to work.
that's right.
And I think that's the same with people, isn't it? What would you say, because I know a lot of people do a lot of kind of self-help type things. And, this time of year, there's stuff that people have, like, a bit of the new year, new you, and, all those kinds of things. We won't talk about New Year's resolutions,
Yeah.
but yeah, we any more than we have. But
Yeah.
um, how do you think it even applies to that stuff? Like because people, I know people sometimes say, well, I've been doing a lot of work with myself, like I'm journaling and I'm doing meditation and that kind of stuff, um, which is great.
Mm.
And
Yeah. And then
yeah,
what?
yes,
Because
and
nothing changes, or it doesn't have this dramatic effect that they're hoping for.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when you talk about the deep kind of work, tell me, like, Rebekah, what does that normally look like when you're working with, your clients and helping them, because you work with a lot of people that have got this kind of stress and
Yeah.
anxiety and different stuff, and they're often kind of, maybe working in like corporate type roles.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what is normally the way you go about helping them do that deep work?
It's all about getting back to basics.
Mm,
You know, and those foundations. If you think about a house, Tony, you know, if you've got shoddy footings, if you don't let the slab set the way that it's supposed to be and it cracks and it's all wonky, the walls and the house, they're not going to stand. You know, you're going to have a wobbly house, you're going to have maintenance issues for the entirety of the house's life. So you've actually got to get those foundations right first. And we might think that, oh, well, I had this particular childhood, and so my foundations are what my foundations are. But the awesome thing is that you can change all of that. You obviously need someone who knows how to help you do that, but it's about getting back to those basics. And that's what I do with people, is it's going back to the ABCs, I like to call it. So, you know, anybody who's done a first aid course knows that the ABCs are the first things that you learn, right? Airway, breathing, and circulation.
The first thing that comes to my mind is staying alive. You know that staying alive, that's like the right beat.
That's right, it's got the beat. I know, I think everybody thinks about that. But you've done your ABCs and then you start your CPR.
Yeah.
But and you touched on this. So you know, you've got to be aware. So that's, instead of looking outward, you've got to look inward. And that's where all those tools like meditating, journaling, breath work, all of those, they really do come into play. But then it's all, you know, your B is all about your brain. So how can you change something if you're not aware of what the issue is and how you're doing something, like you said earlier? And how do you actually change something if you've never learned how to retrain your brain? So you do actually need to learn how to retrain your brain from all of that conditioning that you've had over the years, because all of that has created your identity of who you are now. And so it's about, you know, you then also need to figure out who you want to be. If you don't want this, you know, and I think a lot of us focus on that. I don't want this. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want this kind of life. But we actually don't spend a lot of time looking at, well, what do I want in my life? And, you know, there's actually a stat that shows only 2 out of 5 Australians really understand what it is that they want for their life.
I believe that, absolutely, because that's our culture. People, you know, even if someone goes, oh, you know, how's things? Oh, yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
You know, how's your wife, husband? Oh, well, we're not divorced yet, so, you know, I guess it's right.
Yeah, that's right. So great. That sounds woohoo.
Yeah, how exciting.
And then you've got to make the choice. That's the C. There's 2 C's there, really. You've got to make the choice to change.
Yeah.
And so that's, I guess, where to start. All of those things that you mentioned, they're all vital, they're all important, they all work. But then it's, for me, when I'm working with people who have these perhaps bigger issues where it's a chronic concern that they're looking for, it's about diving deep into that foundation and resetting it. I guess, if you want to use the house slab analogy.
Oh, yeah. Well, our body, well, we're living in this kind of, our body is our house, isn't it? That houses our mental and emotional and spiritual and yeah, it is a house. I think I agree with that. Yes. I think I agree with that. I do agree with that. Yeah.
And then, and marrying all those conscious things that we do with the unconscious, and without going into detail of that, of course, because I know your listeners will have heard a lot about that from you before, but we have to make sure that we're marrying the conscious with the unconscious. Otherwise, these things don't stick.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important, though, because there's always different people who listen in, and I'm sure, you know, there'll be your audience that listens into this as well, Beck, that you would have spoke to them as well. But it's understanding that there are processes that you can do with a trained practitioner like Beck, and her mum. What's your mum's name again?
Yvonne.
That are techniques like nothing you've imagined. It's way more powerful than meditation and journaling. There are techniques that get right into the root cause of what's going on, shift that stuff really quickly, and really help you. It's like cleaning the filters that you view the world through, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like the way that you explain that. And I think there's a lot of people who hear that or think about that and they think, oh my goodness, that's going to be scary. You know, what if there's something in there that I've repressed that comes out?
Yeah.
You know, and that is, I'm sure you've probably seen that's a pretty
Oh,
common
it is so
fear for
common,
people?
super common. It's one of the things I'm fully like
Yeah.
giving people reassurance about just about every single time I work with people.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And it does happen, but it's very rare. And we don't take people, we're not looking to re-traumatize people. In fact, the complete
no,
opposite. So we are not taking people back through those events, but we're giving them the opportunity to learn something from it and move forward. And it is incredibly powerful. And I
yeah,
credit these techniques for me eliminating depression and anxiety.
yeah,
And I say eliminate. I do not say manage, and I do not say cope with.
yeah.
I eliminate.
Eliminate it. Yeah, the eliminator. Um,
Oh, there's a new name.
yeah. But I think this is the thing, right? And I'm glad you made that point because the thing is whether you face deal with this stuff to release it or not, and it's always super fast and you don't have to
Mm,
talk about all the details of
yeah,
stuff. It's just releasing stuff. Whether you but deal with it or not, it is affecting you. There's
yeah,
no getting away from it, is it? It's just like, oh, people are like, oh, I'm worried about what I might find. Don't worry about what you might find. You're already living with the worst part of it. It's like it
right.
only gets better.
That's right. Yeah, just because
Yeah.
we don't talk about it doesn't mean it's not there,
Yeah. And it's
and
sitting there and it's the cause of the stress and anxiety and all those kinds of things.
yeah, and worst case scenario, it's going to manifest into something much, much worse.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, Beck, I feel like we could keep talking about this topic for a long time because there's so much in it, and I know it's been really amazing hearing your how you've been able to do this for yourself, and now you do this work for other people. I think it's so super important in the world, and I would love to ask you though, just in back into response in work having your own business, because I know
Yeah,
a lot of people listen to this are
yeah,
thinking about having a business or have their own business.
yeah.
What do you find is well, a two-part question. What's been your biggest challenge in business, and what is the most rewarding thing in business for you?
Okay. The most challenging thing, I guess the most challenging thing, it really converting client, we're trying to get sales in business, right? All of us, no matter
Yes.
what we do. And it's that conversion, I guess, has been challenging because when somebody asks me what I do, and the short answer, I might say, I help people eliminate anxiety, and they're like, oh my God, I need you. I'm like, great. Or
Yes.
my mum needs you, my best friend needs you.
Yeah.
But of course, it's getting people out of their comfort zone. So, that's the challenge, I guess, for me, is to be sharing my story, is to be showing up, is to be building rapport with people when I don't even know who they are or where they're hearing me or seeing me.
Mm.
So I guess that's a challenge for me, is helping people get to the point where they're willing to, they can get out of this inertia. They can
Yeah.
step out of their comfort zone and
That is, it's such a important point. I'm glad you mentioned that, and I think that the thing that it's important for people to know, especially when they're starting out, is that that coaching of getting people to their solution starts before they're even your client, because it's like coaching people beyond, even over the obstacle of saying yes to getting some help, right?
yeah,
That's the
that's
thing.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
And you asked about the reward. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a couple of things that spring to mind. I mean, the biggest reward for me, and I know it will sound like a cliche, but I mean, my ultimate purpose is to help people, right? At its
Yeah.
basic. So the biggest reward I get is from helping people achieve these amazing results. And then, I see them originally, and then I see them down the track and they're living their best life. And, then something happens and they're like, do you know what? I can cope with this better. So helping people get amazing results is the biggest reward. But from in the business perspective, also, I guess the flexibility is the best thing for me. I know a lot of people say, I want to start my own business, want to go into business because I want freedom. Freedom, I'm not sure if that's the right word for me, because as
Business.
you well know, when you,
that's a trap that got me signing
yeah,
up for an affiliate marketing business before I got
yeah,
into coaching, the freedom.
that's right. Because yes, you're free from working for somebody else 9 to 5 and whatever rules they put around it. But I'm sure, as
Mm.
you know, when you start your business, you've never worked this hard in your life, even if you've worked yourself to the bone before. You've never worked so many hours. You've never been so broke, to begin with. So there's all of these challenges. But of course, if you love what you're doing and you're passionate about it and it feeds your soul,
Yeah.
it's all okay. But the flexibility for me, I got up this morning and I went for a ride with my friends. Beautiful day. I like to ride bikes. We went for a ride. We've got a coffee. I came back. I spent some time with my dogs. Then I got ready and I came to my desk. Nobody's looking at the watch.
Yeah.
Nobody's telling me, that I'm doing the wrong thing. And I will probably work late tonight because that's what works for me.
Yeah.
But I can do what I want, when I need to.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that I love about business is that it's such your own like personal growth journey, because that whole thing about learning how to, make money and do sales and marketing and managing your time and boundaries and all that stuff, it's like it puts you in an environment to just level up so far on
Yeah,
those kinds of things and do that. But like I agree, when I first come into business, I was like flexibility was my highest value, which is
yeah,
fairly uh um what's the word I'm looking for? Not appropriate for business, but it was about
yeah,
no one's going to tell me what to do, when to do it, where to
yeah,
do it, how much they're going to pay me or anything else. That
yeah,
wasn't very effective. But
yeah,
like I said, today I had an appointment cancelled earlier, and so I was like, oh great, I went off to the shops and got some Christmas shopping done.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, brilliant. And so, and last of all, Beck, what do you do for fun? Because, this is the thing. We talk about being in business and we can all get a bit carried away, but I know you're very good at switching off and doing things for fun. So tell us what you do for fun.
I do, yeah. This is what I coach people on. So I have to live and breathe what I coach as well, right? So I love to have fun. I love to laugh. My favorite thing to do, and I mentioned it before, is cycling. So I am a cyclist. I am one of those lycra clad cyclists on the road, love us or hate us. I'm there.
Love it.
And I've got a great little group down around the area that I live, and we get together a couple of times a week and we go riding. So I don't just ride for exercise. I guess, that's a byproduct, but for me, it's about I'm happy, I'm out in nature, I'm with friends, I've got this big grin on my face. So I cycle, and then, I do other things like that group and some others. We go to trivia night once a month.
Oh,
You
I
know,
love that. I love a
we go
bit of
down,
trivia.
yeah, we go down to our local pub and it's on every week. We go once a month. We have a meal, we have a drink, we have a laugh. We cannot get out of fifth position, but we always come fifth. Something to aspire to. But yeah, I
Yeah,
that's,
oh, that's
that's a
great.
couple of
Trivia
stuff.
always reminds me of Trivial Pursuit. Remember that board game of the 80s?
Yes, I was
Uh,
always good at the entertainment section.
oh, were you? I don't know what I was good at. I can't remember. I just like playing it. But
Yeah.
oh, that's fantastic, Beck. I love that. Now, Beck, what is the best way if someone is like, feeling like they've got some issues with stress or anxiety or even depression, or if they're just like, do you know what? I just want to make this 2024 a different year than it was today and I need some help.
Yeah.
What's the best way that they get in contact with you? Have you got any resources that they can access?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've actually got a free resource on our website, and it's actually perfect for this time of year because it does allow you to take a step back and clarify. It's actually called How to Move from Confusion to Clarity in 7 Simple Steps.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so if you've got a problem that you want to solve, or if you've got a goal that you want to achieve, perhaps in the new year, then this is a perfect resource for you. So you can go to our website, which is moonbeammonday.com.au/resources, and you can find that that download there, and you can get in contact that way, or you can email me at rebecca@moonbeammonday.com.au. And Rebecca
Amazing.
is spelled a special way, as you can, I'm sure you'll put in the notes.
It'll be in the show notes. Yeah, we'll put the
Yeah.
links in the show notes, and so definitely go there. And that is amazing. So thank you so much, Rebecca. It's such a pleasure to have you on and having a chat with you. And thank you for sharing your tips around, really managing the stress and sorting your life out. And I think, people, taking these things on board can definitely move into Christmas with
Yeah.
a bit more calm and peace and joy, and set themselves up. So reach out to Rebekah for some more help. And thank you so much for being a guest here on the Coaching Circle.
Thanks so much for having me, Tony. Appreciate it.